Hello and welcome to Supreme Commander Forge Alliance Forever. Today I'm going to show you most of my hotkeys and the most useful ones. So let's just start at the top left of the keyboard at Tab. Tab, a pretty handy key, and we use it for toggling infinite build here. One thing to note, although I'm in sandbox here, there's no delay. In a regular game there is delay on this hotkey, so be careful of that. That can be frustrating, but if you're aware of it then you can avoid the problem. So that's Tab for infinite build. Q gives us patrol. Quite a good key for patrol, I guess, but I do use it pretty often, so it seems fair enough. Now in W we have factories, so we can cycle through all our factories here. Even gives us quantum gateway. Of course you're going to be building a lot of factories, very important to have that on a good hotkey. E, similarly, very important, building mexes. So that's a couple of the most important hotkeys right there, factories and mexes. Or we have reclaim, quite a good hotkey. For reclaim, we want to be able to left click on reclaim, because if we right click then we run into these problems where we give move orders accidentally. So we put reclaim on a key so we can left click. So we press R and then left click to get our reclaim, and then we get no accidental move orders. T gives us move, so we have reclaim and move right next to each other, because in the opening we want to be able to move to the right place so that we're not so we can get in range of all the reclaim we want and reclaim efficiently. Y, we get to the less used hotkeys now. Gives us missile defense. U gives us unload and loads of transport for us. Also on U, on Ctrl+U, we have ferry. So U unloads, Ctrl+U gives us a ferry, so that's very easy to remember the two commands then. Next we have I. Again, this one is being a one versus one player, not something I use very often, but I is engineering stations. O and P I do not use, they're just too far away, so let's go back. Caps lock obviously doesn't do anything for me except turn on caps lock. A is our templates, and we have just a few templates. So we have pgen grid here, we have T1PD with walls, we have energy storage, we have a mass storage with a mex in the middle, and then we have mass fabs. I never use this hotkey, however, or this template. I use the hotkey a lot, but I never use the template. Let's stop this. S, radar, very important hotkey. I'm always building radars. I have to have the coverage, so we put it on S. D is for power. F for shields, very important to be able to make shields as soon as you need them, so I have that on a good hotkey. G, my favorite hotkey, upgrade. Let's make a T3 mex, shall we? H. H is for, let's see, it does Medusa. What else does H do? I wonder. Well, there's nothing here. Well, I guess H is not used too much here. builds gestures and T1 artillery. Not a hotkey I use very much. J gives us experimentals. K assists. Again, not using that too often. It's quite far away. But you can use that to place an assist order on the ground, which can be useful at times, for sure. L does nothing, I believe. Okay, now this hotkey is quite important. This is the key. This is a slash key. It's between Shift and Z on my keyboard. And this selects all idle engineers on screen. Hang on, let me just... So you can see if I zoom out, it starts selecting these guys over here. If I zoom in, it's not selecting those. It's just selecting the idle engineers on screen. This hotkey I use a lot. So it's right there. I use my wedding finger for that key. Z, we have anti-air. X, we have torpedoes. C selects the commander. Now if we double tap C, then it will zoom to the commander. And then again, as I yes, overcharge is on Shift+C. So we select the commander with C. Shift+C gives us overcharge. V for repair. B gives us PDs. N for missile launchers, i.e. nukes and TMLs. M gives us mass fabs. And that's pretty much all of the keys. I really don't use M. Very rarely use N. So the main ones, I guess, would be you know, factory on W, E for mechs, D for power, S for radar, A for template. These are really the main ones. I mean, even aside from the template one. So we have those all right under our fingers. If we go into the factory, W to build factory, W to build engineers. So that's the... I don't often use the unit hotkeys, except for I use the T1 engineer one a lot. If we go to Tech 2, we have T2 engineers on E. And again, I don't really use the hotkeys too much. Main tank on D is pretty good. And the air, we do use the air hotkeys pretty often. So we have F for fighter, S for scout. I use those quite often. D for torpedo bomber, A for gunship, and Z for air scout, T3 spy plane, I mean. X for ASF. Those are the main ones I use. Get our air production going. Make some. These would be the main ones I use. Okay, so selection hotkeys. We have, well, we already did one, which is the idle engineers on screen hotkey. Now, other ones, let's see, we have select all air on Ctrl+A. A for air. Very. So that selects all of them, not just on screen, all of them on the map, and then we can pick what units we want. Now, select all fighters I use quite often. That's on Ctrl+F. Select all gunships. Ctrl+Q. Select all bombers. Ctrl+E. Another one, here's one I use quite often, is to cycle through idle factories. This one, again, Ctrl+W. So W is really all about factories. So Ctrl+W cycles through our idle factories. Very useful to keep our factories building all the time. Okay, yeah, here's a good one. Ctrl+Shift+F for me. This is toggle all unit abilities. If we go down here, here we go. Toggle all unit abilities. This one is quite useful. Say we have these UEF frigates. Say we're power stalling, right? And we have this UEF frigates. We have some mobile shields as well. Let's get some mobile shields. So we're power stalling. We're trying to finish our T3P gen. What do? We need to stop all of our power production. We press Ctrl+Shift+F. And we turned off everything. Turn off all the abilities. The frigate is, you know, jamming, so need to save the 5 power that they use, and then we can just turn them back on. If we have, say, some on and some off, then I think what will happen is, oh, they kind of switch back and forth. Well, I think that's because they're 2 separate units. But if we have the say, you see some of these off, some of these on, when we press it once, they'll all go to off, and then they'll turn back on the next activation of the hotkeys. That's on Ctrl+Shift+F. Now, one of the abilities this doesn't work on though is diving. It does not work on surface and diving, so I have a different hotkey for that, which is Ctrl+Y. Again, not something I use very often. But also, if you, again, same story as with the shields we showed. If they're in 2 different modes, then, or if some are up, some are down, they'll all go down and then they'll all come up when you select them all and use the hotkey. Here's one. Idle. Nearest idle air scout. So this selects obviously spy planes and T1 scouts. Selects one, nearest the cursor. I'm using Ctrl+Shift+A. I don't use this hotkey very much. Maybe I should though. It's kind of useful. Kind of useful. But again, I don't have it on a great key. Ctrl+Shift+A. It's a bit awkward. I try to avoid using Alt. I use Alt for like testing hotkeys. For example, teleport, unit. But not for actual gameplay stuff. Do we have any other interesting hotkeys? Select all land units on screen. I don't use that very much. Select all navy on screen. Oh yeah, select all land is Ctrl+D for me. Select all navy on screen, Ctrl+S, S for C, of course. And I think that's more or less all the hotkeys. Oh, we also have, of course, Shift-G, which is called a Shift-G move order, and it's still on Shift-G for me. So you give the move order, hold Shift, press G. There we go. That's it. Let's take a look. So yeah, we got assist, attack, dive, ferry. We Ctrl+K obviously. L for launch missile. Okay, there we go. Again, I don't use this virtually ever, so maybe I should put it on a nicer key. Oh yes, pause is on spacebar. That's quite an important one, I guess. You got to be able to pause stuff. So there we go. Let's see if we have anything else interesting. Oh yeah, shift escape. This is for soft stop. So let's say we have all that air queued up. Escape cancels all the units. That's stop. Soft stop, however, we press Shift and Escape, and we cancel all but the unit that's building. So that's the difference there. Basically, if you don't want to waste the last unit that's in production, if you cancel, those resources are gone. If you use the soft stop, you cancel all but the unit that's building, and so you don't waste those resources. You'll finish that unit off. Control groups, not using control groups very much at all. Select all air, all fighters, bombers. Select all factories on screen. I'm never using this hotkey. Select all TML, Ctrl+Shift+Q. I always forget about that one. That's one I added at some point and never used. And there is nothing interesting there, honestly, that we haven't already mentioned. Except for, oh yeah, this one. So I'm using a couple of mods here that will alter the selection. You may have noticed I have Deprioritizer. I'll make a UI mod video as well, but if you look up selection Deprioritizer, you can see that it prioritizes navy over land over air. So if we select land and air, it will only select the land units. If we select land, air, navy, it will only select navy units. So I have a hotkey to toggle that off. So instead of using this mod, what you can do is use the inbuilt feature here, which is cycle through unit types in selection. So we turn off Deprioritizer and we press the hotkey. I have it on 5. I never use this, so I just put it on 5. Now it goes to land, it goes to navy, it goes to air. And we can just do this forever, so we can select some units. Press once for land, twice for navy, 3 times for air. And then we don't really have to use selection Deprioritizer. If I was starting now, I'd probably use that hotkey instead of the mod. That's really the only interesting one here that we hadn't gone through yet, I would say. By the looks of it, select all naval units, not too interesting. Of course. And this we have largely gone through as well. Extra keys, I don't make any use of these. Camera. Okay, we have some interesting camera hotkeys here. Excuse me. Which again, not using too often. Well, we have tracking, obviously. Ctrl+Shift+T. A bit of cinematic stuff happening. Oh, press the wrong hotkey. We have, okay, here's one. This I believe comes from the additional camera stuff mod. I don't think this is in the base game, at least. So we can save camera positions. Here we go, and I have it on. Shift+Tab saves the camera position. Ctrl+Tab goes to the next saved camera position. Ctrl+Shift+Tab deletes the current camera position. So let's press Shift+Tab now. Okay, we'll zoom out. We'll go over here somewhere, and then we'll press Ctrl+Tab. And we zoom back to our camera position. And we press it. Keep pressing it. It stays here. Now let's go over here to these loyalists. Press Shift+Tab. We'll zoom out again, and we'll press Ctrl+Tab. We'll press it twice, and now it's going to cycle back between those camera positions. So obviously this could be quite useful. Not something I've built into my gameplay, although maybe this is one of the hotkeys I would like to definitely use more often. And I think the hotkey setup makes sense in my mind with the Ctrl+Tab, Shift+Tab. Makes sense to me, at least. Free camera mode, I have an F12. I use that for my making those thumbnails. And that's really all the interesting camera stuff. That's all the hotkeys I have there. Yeah, so these are like uninteresting ones as well. Toggle the keybind menu is F1, but you can also get to the keybind menu through here, key bindings in the menu. And I think that's pretty much it. Don't think there's anything else. These are default. And yes. Oh, actually it seems like the camera is built in, the camera position stuff, but there's also additional camera stuff adds certain other things. So those are my hotkeys. It's probably all my hotkeys. Some that I would like to use, most that I am using pretty often, and that's it. So maybe this helps you guys. Maybe you can tell me some of your most used hotkeys, any you think I should have that I don't, should be using. And thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you soon for casts and gameplay.